Hi, everyone. Deborah Hamilton. So glad to be here with you tonight on National Puppy Day. I'm hoping a lot of people join us tonight because it's such a great night to have a MAP plan. Because if you are going to be part of the pet owning world, then you need to make a MAP plan for your pets. Hey, Connie. Hey, Susan. So this is, if you're just tuning in, this is the MAP community call. We talk about making a plan for your pet. Today is Puppy Celebration Day, National Puppy Day. And I think we've all put up pictures of our babies as puppies. I put up Thelma and Louise, and Thelma, of course, is called Mariah now. But it really was a celebration today of all of the wonderful pets that we have had in our lives as puppies and that are still in our lives as older dogs or new puppies to come into our lives. So welcome, everyone. Welcome, Jan. Welcome, Susan. Welcome, Connie. Tonight, we're going to talk about making a plan for your pets as we do almost every evening, Wednesday evening at 6:30. But tonight, I'm a little off kilter only because I know for people who come to this meeting every Wednesday night, I'm a little bit of an Energizer bunny. And 2 weeks ago tomorrow, I had my knee replaced. And the first week was incredibly pain-free, and I was thrilled. And then, as one does when they are not feeling any pain, they overdo it. And I guess walking 12,000 steps over 2 days with a brand new knee might be categorized as overzealous. So as you can imagine, my niece said, "Excuse me, I'm raising my hand now and I'm going to put you in bed, knee up, ice on it for at least a week, maybe longer." And of course, these are the kind of things that you have to make a plan for. So Junie might stay, my Irish setter might stay in hunting school for an extra week because his mother had used many not so kind words about herself after Saturday and Sunday's walkathon that I didn't need to do. However, a good friend of mine said she was going to change those words that I was using to words that were more like the Wizard of Oz, overzealous, as opposed to the words I was using. So we're working through it. My doctor and my physical therapist think I just probably bruised my brand new knee. However, they think it won't be a long-term thing, but it'll probably be at least a week or 10 days before I return to being pain-free. So these are things that as pet owners, we have to figure out because if Junie had been here and I had planned to walk him, I would have been walking 12,000 steps a day. And that's why he went to hunting camp, so that I wouldn't have to walk that far. But alas, as some of you may know, moving into a house is a big event and you walk a lot. So that was one of the things we were prepping for last weekend. And I wasn't paying attention and my husband wasn't paying attention. And at the end of the day, I said, I think I need to go sit down. And that was that. So before we get into the crux of it, I'm going to do two things. One is for those of you who are new. So Jan, I believe this might be your first time. The MAP Plan Community Call is a group of people who come together to talk about their pets, talk about what they've done to plan for their pets, talk about recent events that they've heard of where pets were not planned for and that really needed planning, i.e., people get divorced and then have an argument over the pet. Neighbors, don't know about the pets and can't help you if, God forbid, something happens and you go out with an ambulance. If you have a disaster in your neighborhood, we can think of many disasters that we always plan for: fire, flood, tornadoes, things like that. Louisiana was wiped out with the tornado last night. Now we have to think about war. And it has been incredible how the world community has come together to take care of pets in the events that are happening over in Ukraine. So you have to make a plan, especially if you have very big animals, if you have horses or llamas or really big dogs, you have to make a plan. You have to address the needs of your pet. You have to appoint caregivers. And we always say, please, God, have three. And one of them, if you have a purebred dog, you can go on the internet, find the national club for that purebred dog. So for me, it's Irish Setters. For Connie, it's Wheaten Terriers. For Susan, it's Catons. And Jan, we'll hear about your babies as well. But if it's a rescue, that's fine too, because just make sure the rescue knows that if something happens to you and the first 2 or 3 people that you might have appointed can't take care of your pet, then the rescue is always there to have a soft landing for your dogs. And then finally, it's M, make a plan, A, address the needs of your pet, A, appoint caregivers, and P, publish, because you have to tell the people who are going to be caregivers of your pet about the responsibilities that you would like them to take on, and tell them what the idiosyncrasies of your wonderful pet is. I know, Susan, we've talked so often about Maggie's idiosyncrasies, and of course, terriers, Connie, they are full of idiosyncrasies, and Irish Setters, again, full of idiosyncrasies. It's always better to send them with a note so that people know what they like, what they don't like, what they're afraid of, what they're not afraid of. Hi, Patty. Welcome. We're just running down what the MAAP plan stands for and what the community stands for. We're a group of people who come together to talk about how to make a long or short-term plan for your pet. So make a plan, address the needs of your pet, appoint caregivers, and then publish it with the people who are going to be your caregivers. All of them need to know each other. And then your vet needs to know, because if your vet doesn't know, your caregivers won't be able to bring them to your vet and have them cared for. And of course, your attorney, who's going to make your other estate and life planning plans, they would have to know as well. So without further ado, I'm Deborah Hamilton. I'm the one who started this community back. Well, it's been started for a very long time, but we really consistently held it every Wednesday night at 6:30, so that people who were stuck home with COVID could make plans for their pets if, God forbid, they got sick. And I'm going to continue it every Wednesday at 6:30 because things are happening in this world that we can't even begin to plan for. So we're going to make a plan and make sure our pets have a soft landing if something happens to us. So what I usually do on these calls is I check in with everyone. So I'm going to start with you, Connie. How are you? Tell us, for the new people, tell us where you are, what kind of dogs you have, and if you have a MAAP plan put together.
Hi, I'm Connie Kohler. I'm in Metro Los Angeles in Rancho Palos Verdes specifically, which is 10 minutes from the beautiful blue Pacific, but we're in the largest incorporated city in the state of California that's in a very high fire danger area. And last night, our temperature soared 15 degrees over what it was yesterday. And this morning, the fire choppers were up over our hill. So we are always in danger of evacuation. I have soft-coated Wheaten Terriers. I am a breeder, owner, exhibitor. And up until last April, I had 3 direct generations, grandmother, mother, and son, grandson. And unfortunately, we lost the grandma last April at the age of 11. So I still have the 8-year-old mom, who is a retired grand champion and now engaged in rally and obedience, and the son who just finished his championship, just turned 3. And he also does rally, and he's working on his grand championship. So I have been part of Deborah's community for several years. Yes, I have a MAAP plan, and Deborah worked with my estate attorney on getting it together with my estate planning. So, but I do need to continually do updates, as we all do, because not only do your animals change, but also their medical needs and their other needs. So that's an ongoing process.
Awesome. Thank you, Connie. Susan, tell us where you're from and tell us about Maggie and if you've got your plan put together.
Hi, I'm Susan Capuano, and I live in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. in Fairfax. And I have Maggie. She is my 3rd Coton de Tulier. And she was a complete surprise to me because her behavior was so outrageous. I had 2 previous Kutans, and they were just the delight of my life. I adored them, and they both lived to their teens, mid-teens and up. And Maggie just didn't fit my preconception of what I was getting into. But she's starting to calm down. She's 2.5. She'll be 3 in August. And yeah, so I'm working on my plan, but finding someone to appoint can be a bit of a challenge when your dog's not well behaved. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And, Maggie was one of the dogs who was affected by being a COVID dog and not getting out. And Susan also has an interesting and really responsible family life that we've talked about over the years that make it a little bit more difficult for consistency in training. So we've connected her with various trainers, and we've talked about different things that she can do that can make her life a little easier, and then where to find caregivers who might be just the right fit for Maggie, because she's the sweetest girl. She just is a little bossy and a little naughty. So we've none of us have ever had dogs or cats that are bossy or naughty. I'm kidding. So we're all working together so that Susan can make a plan, short-term, long-term. So Patty, I'd love for you to tell us. You've been here before, Patty. How are you?
Yeah, thanks. I've been through the ringer since I saw you last.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just to recap, I'm a horse person and a dog person. I live in Southern California in a very high fire area too. So evacuation's huge. My MAAP plan is on my to-do list. But I do think often about who I can place my animals with. And as Susan alluded to, it's a very difficult thing. So
it's not that easy to do. Absolutely.
No. It's a work in progress, but I do recognize the importance of it. And I hate the fact that I don't have it together yet. But now that I'm back on the calls, I'm excited to get it done. But
there is absolutely no judgment here, because you know what? I didn't have a MAAP plan until I broke my ankle, and it was sort of like sink or swim. So it isn't if I was, in the driver's seat knowing what to do. This sort of was created because I needed it. It was sort of, I built the boat while I was on the water. So it's so difficult. So I'm so glad you're back, Patty. Jan, it's so nice to meet you. Do you want to tell us where you're from and what kind of animals you have?
So I live in Connecticut, right outside Hartford, and we spoke a few weeks ago.
Oh, right. Yep.
So I have a Border Collie Black Lab Park Greyhound mix. He's 9. And I do have 3 people that I've spoken to that would take him. He is he has IBS. So that was one of my concerns, because I needed someone who's going to be able to help me with his health issues. But he also has severe separation anxiety. So actually 2 of the people I lined up, one was he's a rescue. So one of the people is actually his original foster, loved him and she said she would have been a failure adopter. Like she would have been a foster failure had I not taken him. So, I know she's really my backup person. My primary person is the dog behaviorist I worked with for separation anxiety, who's a lovely guy. And then the woman I used to leave him with, I moved in a year ago. So I know she would take. So those are my 3 people. I do have to make sure that they knew who each other are. Like that, I realized that was missing.
It's really key.
And veterinarian, since I just moved a year ago, I have a vet where I was that I really liked. So I know I would tell them and share that I'd really like them to bring him there to this veterinarian. Locally, because I'm now about 2.5 hours away from there, something happens, immediately. I do have 2 close friends very close by who I know would take him, but I do have to communicate with them. I know the vet that he has locally now, because it's a different vet. I don't have a pet trust, but I do have money that I have set aside for his care. Basically because of the IBS. And I just wanted to make sure that nobody was burdened, quote unquote, with the financial responsibility of taking care of him. I know that there are definitely holes in my MAP plan, but I'm actually excited that I'm actually doing it. That I really have, like, it's now on my, on the front burner of my brain, so to speak, because I work in wellness and pets. So a lot of what I do kind of infiltrates the way I want him cared for. But still, I know that there's communication things that I need to do to make sure that, I get communicated and get, what I want is carried out. And part of my emphasis was I have a friend who's an estate attorney in Vancouver, British Columbia, and she had a client recently where the person did not have a plan and they actually had to put the dog down, which broke her heart. Nobody would take it. And so, I never want anything like that to happen to anybody.
No, and you really have to make a plan, no matter if your dog has IBS or, hi, Karen, how are you? No matter if your dog has IBS or has some behavior issues, or they're big guys like horses, like Patty has, you have to make a plan so that someone can know, and that plan has to be in writing. So if there's one takeaway that both of you can do and feel really good about taking those first steps to make a MAP plan, is to put something somewhere that is really visible. So some people don't like to put telephone numbers on the front door. So I always say the refrigerator is a good place, but you can put a note on the front door in case of an emergency, the numbers for the people to call, leave my dogs put, leave my horses put, don't touch them, and put those 3 or 4 numbers up on the refrigerator, direct the person who's coming where the note or the information is. Because what we have found, and I know that Connie and Susan and Kieran have heard this over and over again, I'm like a broken record, because during COVID, they would send animal care and control into your house to get your pets once they found that there were pets unattended, because they didn't know what to do with the pets. And if you didn't recover soon enough, those pets could be adopted by someone else, and you won't be able to get them back. So my first thing when someone comes to the call for the first time now, I just ask them if tonight, before they go to bed, they write down at least 1 telephone number. I would love 2. If you could do 3, I will virtually kiss you, because what you want to do is you want to put a number up that can be called so your pet can go from point A to point B or stay in their own home. I know Connie and Susan and Karen are going to hear me say nosy neighbor. You really want your nosy neighbor to stick their nose in your business at that point and say to the police or the emergency care people, listen, I know what Patty or Jan want to do with their pet, their dog or their cat, and just leave it with me. It's always better if, in fact, they have something in writing that says, Susan and Connie know what to do with my pet. Please listen to them and leave the dogs in the house. So whomever is there, if you have a nosy neighbor, they don't have to take your pet. This is why I'm telling you this. They don't have to take your pet, leave it in the house, but they know to call the people. And then the police or EMS know that there are people who are going to be called to take care of these pets. So that's like the one thing you can do tonight that'll absolutely, give you peace of mind, huge peace of mind, and save your pets' lives, that they don't leave your house. Because I know, Patty, the last time we talked, having the pets leave the property if something happens to you is a difficult thing to do. But if you can have a note up there that they know who to call, if you want to make sure that your pets are left where they are. And I know that I'm going to check in on Kieran for a minute before I continue. Kieran, how's everything in Tenerife?
Hi, Debbie.
Everything good?
As good as you, I hope.
Well, I was gooder. before now, I sort of overdid it over the weekend. Some of you might have missed that I had my knee replaced 2 weeks ago tomorrow, and I was pain-free until I decided I should walk 12,000 steps in 2 days, which was not the smartest thing in the book. However, I will overcome the bruise that I created. But is everything good in Tenerife? Now, Kieran is our resident responsible dog ownership author. He wrote a great book called When Your Child Asks for a Dog, Let One-Eyed Leo lead the conversation, because it has all the responsibilities that one needs, and part of it is making a MAP plan. So that's Kieran's our resident author, and has really internationally put the MAP plan on the planet. I've been thrilled. But for both of you, for Patty and for Jan, I know that Susan has this up, right, Susan?
Yes.
Fridge, yep. And I know Connie does, because if there's one thing you can take away from tonight, if you have a nosy neighbor, just say to them, listen, can I ask you if ever anything happens to me, just tell the police or EMS to leave the dog in the house, or to point them to the numbers in the house of the people who are going to take care of my pets. That's starting to make the plan, because you have created this daisy chain of people who know what it is that you want to do. Now, your neighbor doesn't have to know all your plans if they're not really the person who's going to take your pet, but they have to be the person who at least is, on the spot telling the police or EMS, I know what Patty and Jan want to do with their pets. I have this piece of paper here that says, in the event I become ill, or I'm sick, or something occurs and I can't take care of my pets, Connie Kohler, my next door neighbor, knows what to do. Please leave the pets in the house and she will take care of it. If you don't have a nosy neighbor, then on the piece of paper on your refrigerator, that's very easy to see, make sure you put, please do not remove my pets from the house. I am going to say that again, because it is the most important sentence for you to put somewhere for police or EMS to see. Please do not remove my pets from the house. These are the 3 numbers of people who will come and care for my pets if something happens to me. Call one of them, and hopefully one of them will be there. So for you, Jan, the rescue is a backup. Your dog behaviorist is a backup. And I think you mentioned one other person who is a backup. Patty, let me know, is there anybody that you can have as just the person to come and feed the horses and the dogs and water the horses and the dogs? That number has to really be out front, and you have to give that person a note. Very simple. In the case of an emergency where I cannot take care of my pets, Deborah Hamilton has my permission to take care of the pets. It doesn't have to be anything more than that. It just simply has to allow that daisy chain to go forward, where you know that Deborah Hamilton's going to come and water and feed your pets, and hopefully you'll be home, or hopefully the rest of your plans will kick into place. Because where it becomes tricky and important to make sure you start this correctly is if you get very ill and you can't answer your phone and your dog goes to animal care and control, it'll then go after a certain legislative period, 5 to 7 days, to a shelter. And if it's adopted from the shelter, you will not be able to get that dog back. Adoption contracts are rock solid. They will not let you pierce that adoption contract to get your dog back. So the contract you signed, Jan, to adopt your lovely Greyhound Border Collie mix, if say it was owned before, right, and it ran away, and 2 years later somebody came and said, that's my dog, they cannot come and say that's my dog, because they make a good faith effort to find the owner. And if they can't find the owner and someone adopts it, you can't get it back. In New York, there was an older woman who had a 9-year-old Afghan. She fell in her house. She broke her hip. They took her out on a stretcher. Animal care and control was there. They took her Afghan. She goes, what are you doing with my dog? No plan. What are you doing with my dog? And they said, well, we're going to take it to animal care and control to keep it safe, and we'll hold it for you till you get out, which of course they didn't do, because when they called her, she didn't answer the phone. So she didn't tell them, I have a plan for my pet here. Let me do this. They didn't see any plans easily accessible in the house. And Afghan Rescue, which every purebred dog group has a rescue, every single one of them, and make sure they're affiliated with the National Club, because that one usually is in it for the placement of the dogs in really good homes. So you want to make sure that those are the dogs, those are the dog people you get in touch with. But Afghan Rescue came and they took the dog from the animal care and control shelter. They placed it, and she was trying to get the dog back, but I can almost guarantee you she wouldn't. So the first thing you do after we stop this call is you just sit there for a minute and think and say, okay, I'm going to put this note on the window in my front door, my back door, in case of emergency. The animals are to stay put. The numbers of the people to call are on the refrigerator or on a red file on the counter. I hate to put things in files because people don't see them. It's amazing. You can put in a yellow file on the counter. You can say yellow file on the counter. They still don't find it. So I like to, it's not lovely, but I like to laminate it and put it on my fridge, and just have those 1 or 2 or 3 numbers so that your dogs stay put. So so tonight we're going to, we're talking about that. We're starting with the fact that today is Puppy Day, National Puppy Day, and everybody put puppy pictures up. But those animals are going to stay with you, and you hope they do stay with you for many years. So tonight, for everyone who's listening to this call, and Rose tells me all the time that so many people listen to this call. If you're new, as well as Jan and Patty's are returning, and I'm so thrilled because there is no guilt or shame in not getting your plan together. And believe me, we want you to keep coming back, because we'll give you little tidbits every single time you come so that you can make this plan on your own by yourself. Probably this summer, I'll run another workshop where we'll all do it in 2 days. Susan will probably come back again, and everyone's welcome, because what I want to do is I want to create the easiest pathway to caring for your pets. It is so important to put this together. So if you have a dog with IBD, you want to make sure that whoever you're speaking to, the people you've set up, Jan, have the directions on how to care for her. You've written that down. Great. Perfect. But you have to have whatever directives you want, the police or EMS to follow have to be in writing. So whomever you've appointed doesn't have to be, rocket science. It simply has to be a note that says Deborah Hamilton, Connie Kohler, and Susan Capuano are the 3 people who have agreed to take care of my dog. If something were to happen to me, please call them. And that's it. And then they call them. And then, as life will have it, Connie will be out on vacation, so she's not going to answer the phone. However, she might answer the phone and say, oh my God, I'm not there. And she'll call Deborah or Susan, or the police will call Deborah or Susan, so that you have this redundancy in care. So I've talked for a long time now. Let me ask you guys if you have any questions, or have I hit you at the fire hose, which I do. I apologize. So I'm going to chime in now. Connie, anything you want to add? Because I know that we talk about the D's all the time. So when you're making your MAAP plan, make sure that you think about the D's, which is disaster in California, because you have earthquakes and fires, and then floods, and then war if you're in Ukraine. Before I give up the mic, I just want to say, I think this is the first time, in fact, I'm writing an article for the American Bar Association, because this is the first time in history where pets have been allowed to be refugees. They were never allowed across borders before. I mean, they could be snuck across borders, but this is an outward acceptance of refugee animals and a worldwide outcry for help, assistance, food, money, medical. I mean, veterinarians without borders are going out there. It has been the most amazing outpouring of care for animals that has ever been seen in the world. And I know you were shaking your head, Kieran. I know you've been probably on the front line of this because I know Rebound Dog has started a group to fund this as well.
Indeed. I just wanted to bring something. Sorry, can you hear me, Debbie?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Yep. No, just a couple of studies I was looking at in the past couple of weeks from the British Veterinary Association, but there was an interesting study from University College Dublin in the veterinary department. And it really underlined how difficult the entire task is, which they had 670 respondents, which was quite a decent sample size, and it was divided into two groups of just over 300 each. So you had one group who were dog owners and the other group who didn't own a dog, but the respondents were all employees of the college. So you'd have a higher than average educated cohort. But what was quite shocking was that less than 17% of either group actually understood the responsibilities if you're a dog owner.
Right.
And I would say that that's probably very accurate and reflective around most of the countries. So it just sort of hit home how difficult the task is.
Yeah, because it's not just about feeding your dog and walking your dog and keeping them in your house or giving them a good dog house, if that's what you really have to make a plan for caring for them. If you're away, caring for them, we always say the 5 Ds. So I know that Connie knows the 5, 6, or 7 Ds and has actually experienced a few of them. So why don't you share them so I'm not the only one talking, but I usually am. Sorry, guys.
Well, if I can remember them, of course, death and disease are at the top of the list. Divorce, disaster, which, as you mentioned, here in California, we are experiencing on a continuum. Deployment, if you're in the military or law enforcement. Delay. Which can be anything but get from being stuck on the freeway due to a traffic accident, all the way to a missed flight, all the way to, massive weather events, like, for instance, happened on the I-95 outside Washington, D.C. Oh, my God, for about 28 hours. A few weekends ago.
Nice, right?
And, it just goes on. But there is, and of course, needless to say, the war in Ukraine, is a whole different kettle of fish that we're experiencing. But along with that, I wanted to mention that today, U.S. intelligence through the White House announced that and I believe President Biden himself announced that there is a very high probability of cyber attacks against NATO and even the United States. And it was President Biden who yesterday said that the entire United States government apparatus is hardening their entire cyber infrastructure against cyber attacks, and urged all business entities and sectors of the economy to do the same. So I throw that out there because our lives may be disrupted, as in we can't do Zoom anymore, or any other sorts of vital communications that may involve either our pets or our health and well-being. So that's another thing. I don't know. I'll have to think of a good D to describe that. But it is certainly a horribly cyber disruption, maybe. Who knows?
You can use the D for documents, because I did say you have to have something in writing. Now, we all have our cell phones. We send texts to each other. But if you can't pull that text off, I can't show it to the police. I can't show it to the EMTs. So you really do have to go old school in this situation and have a written document on the refrigerator and have a written document with the people who are going to be your caretakers for the pets if something happens. And I loved Connie's rendition because she made them all except maybe for dementia. Because what I wanted to point out, which she did beautifully, is that only one of them had to do with death. Only one. the rest of them, you're still alive. And if I've had one case, I've had 10 in my office where people became sick, some of them with COVID, some of them not, and their dogs were gone when they got home. And this is in the breed world. This is in where your breed comes in and helps you because they come to the aid of your countrymen, or the rescue comes in and helps you. And because they don't know you have a plan, they, in all good and welfare, place the dog with someone because you're sick, and you might be sick for a week, a month, a year. And then when you come out, what do you want? Well, you want to go back with your pet. You want to see your pet. And as I said, I know that it seems a little far-fetched, but if your pet is placed and you don't have any written documentation that says, I'm going to leave it with Connie until I get out of the hospital, there is no way for you to get that pet back. And I know that a lot of rescues, I was involved in 3 over the past 18 months, where someone got sick, some with COVID, as I said, some without. Their pets were placed with wonderful people. Don't get me wrong, wonderful people. The breeder came back, took the dog, placed it with a wonderful group. Nothing was in writing. And when the person lived, because they weren't supposed to live, but they did, they wanted their dogs back, and no one would give them their dog back. And yeah, they could go and sue the person. However, how much is that going to cost, and what's that going to mean long-term, short-term? And you know, it really, I've had 2 that actually worked it out beautifully, in that the people who took the dog while the person was an extremist, right, realized that this was such an emotional upheaval for them that they both decided to share the dog 6 months on, 6 months off. And if somebody went on vacation, they would kennel the dog or give the dog to the other party while they were on vacation. So it's sort of like a relationship breakup, right? So that you share the pet going forward. It's something that has to be in writing. So perfect example, Connie, that if we have a cyber attack, and if you can't get in touch with people because the phones are down or whatever, we have to have that nosy neighbor who's going to be the one who says, just leave them there. I'll figure out how to get to the people. And you know, we all have to also check in with each other. Patty, I'd love to ask you if, in fact, you found someone who can be there short term, at least, if God forbid something happened to you, because I know that was one of the problems last time.
Are you talking about the horses or dogs?
Or the dogs, or any of them?
Yeah, I haven't, I've asked a few people. The problem that I have is the most trustworthy people in my life are significantly older than I am. So I worry about that, to be perfectly frank.
Right.
But yes, I do have a couple that would step up.
And I have to tell you that I go to a lot of, like, the Atria, you know, where they allow people to have dogs under 20 pounds, and they don't know anybody younger either. All the people in the Atria, you know, are all the same age. And I said, well, does your dog play with a dog at the dog park? And is that person younger than you? And are you near, you know, a community college? See if there's anyone doing animal sciences, animal behavior at the community college who you can then speak to. Also, you know, your vet tech, your groomer. Sometimes if you can't find someone to take the dog long-term, right, for the rest of its life, hopefully you will be able to have someone hold it for you until you get better. And as Jan said, she left money so that they can use the money to feed the dog the way it needs to be fed, and she has the directions out there. But that you have a way to find people. It is so difficult, and I know it because I've now moved from New York to Connecticut, to North Carolina. I had Connecticut on the mind, Jan, to North Carolina, and I am looking and doing a really good job of finding people who want to take care of my dogs, because I've never had to do that before, because I had people all over that were going to come and take care of my dogs. And here I am in North Carolina and I know no one. So not only do my neighbors, when they met my dogs, say, oh, we'll take care of them, and they're all a little bit older than me. So Patty, I feel your pain. My Irish setter will take them out and then they'll be dead, and that'll be bad. So, I mean, Totally, totally. He'll take them out. But I actually asked at every single one of the vet offices that I went to if they had people who were dog walkers, if they had people who were caregivers for pets, because I want to get to know them now. And because I know several people in my breed, the long-term care would likely be with some of my dear friends who live in Maryland or who live in California or who live in Florida. So, that's not someone who can get here in a minute. However, if we work with the people in the dog world or the horse world who can come and care for them for a few days until a younger person can come and take care of them. And in your neck of the woods, Patty, are there any 4-H or horsemanship groups that you can become a mentor for? Because that's the way to really figure it out. Because God forbid something happen, so that's why we do the workshops, because we never have the time, but we talk about it and get the juices running. We never have the time to really explore. And I find when I put groups of people together for a weekend, they say, well, I found somebody to take care of my horse here. And you're like, wow, I never thought to go to the feed store and see who was up on the board, who was, a dog walker or a horse walker or a horse caretaker. And then you're here, you're healthy, everything's great. And you can interview them and have them come and have them observe how they take care of your dog. And Jan, for you, to make sure that they understand your dog, sometimes you need to have them come and care for the dog while you don't need them. Come on over, we'll make dinner, we'll have taco night, and I'll show you how to take care of the dog, what the things are. We can have this conversation, you can ask me any questions, because it's about making this not such a drudgery, but rather not only so I'll tell you, the guys at the Atrius are funny. They go, well, I want somebody to take care of my dog, but I don't want to take care of their dogs. And I know for both of you, that's probably not the case. If you have friends who have dogs and they have said they take care of your dog, you likely have that quid pro quo. Well, I'll take care of your dog as well, unless, of course, our dogs, like little Maggie, don't get along with other people. And then little Maggie's not going to have anybody coming to stay with her. But it really is something that's important. So I know I don't want to keep you guys any longer than a half hour, but I'd really love to hear if you have any questions, or Susan or Patty or Connie or Jan or Kieran have any thoughts that you're thinking right now based on all the information that we've talked about tonight.
Well, I'd just like to add the absolute necessity for redundancy in your 3 or 4 people on the list. I will give you a real world example that's coming up in my life. Over Easter weekend, we have, as I mentioned, I show my Wheaton Terriers. Over Easter weekend, we have a big specialty show for terriers in Northern California, along with the Kennel Club of Sacramento, all breed show that weekend. So it's 4 days of shows. 2 of my 4 caregivers, who are 2 of my close girlfriends, are traveling with me, and we're all staying in the same hotel with our dogs, and we expect to have a lovely time. But one of my dogs, my girl Patsy, who is retired from the rank, who is making noise right now.
Well, she's a terrier, of course.
She is a terrier, and she's snarking at her son. But at any rate, she's going to be staying at my vet down the hill at their lovely boarding facilities. So I'm going to be 6 or 7 hours away in Lodi, just like the Creedence Clearwater Revival song, Stuck in Lodi Again, that Lodi. At any rate, and Patsy's going to be here. Fortunately, I have a niece who is in Metro LA, and I have a couple of other friends on my list. But, you really have to have the backup.
You do. So redundancy is absolutely key. Thank you, Connie. I'm so glad you remembered to say that, because it is. When I say 2 or 3, it's not because of any reason other than that somebody's going to be busy. And so if you only have 1, it really is not necessarily keeping things moving forward. Anything else, Connie?
That's it. But I just wanted to mention that, sometimes your half your list is going to be out of pocket for one reason or another, or they may be with you.
Right. And then what do? We talk to
exactly.
We have to have the rescue. The rescue is never out of pocket. The rescue is always available to help. And the nosy neighbor or two is always there to help. At the very least, especially if you say to them, I don't want you to do anything except maybe make sure they have fresh water. Nobody's going to die for 24 hours if they don't have dinner. But you can also, have them in and teach them how to give the dog dinner. But, I'm a big proponent of never letting anybody walk your dog off your property. Because God forbid, I know with Junie, if a squirrel goes by, you're going flying, and he's going to be after the squirrel. So I never let him off my property when somebody's watching him. But that's something you need to know, and you need to decide, and you need to make a plan for. Susan, Patty, Jan, Kieran, any final thoughts?
I have sort of an odd kind of thing I want to ask you.
Sure.
I revived our neighborhood newsletter, and it's like a 20-page electronic newsletter. And I was wondering, do you have any articles you've written on the topic that I could put into our community newsletter?
Absolutely.
Crediting you, of course.
Absolutely. And if they want me to come and have a talk about the animals, I'm happy to do it just like this, because it is really important for people to just start thinking about it. So absolutely, Patty, shoot me an email.
Okay.
And I will absolutely send you an article. I have lots of them. So tell me who the audience is, and I'll send the appropriate article.
Okay. And I'll send you a copy of the newsletter so you can get a feel for what it's like.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
Susan,
I have to say thank you to Patty for bringing that up, because I actually write a pet column for magazines. And so it's a good thing for me to know. But I'll say one thing that I learned the hard way, getting stuck once, is that my pet sitter, who I love dearly, who's one of the people on my plan, I was delayed, and she ran out of medication for Tonka, because I had only allotted a certain amount for a certain number of days, because I did foresee being delayed. And it was not a big deal for me, because I called the vet and I said she was going to pick it up or whatever, but it would have been a lot easier had the vet had her name and she had the vet's name, and I wouldn't have, it would have just been a lot easier and a lot less stressful had I just known that was in effect. Thank God I was actually, I was able to communicate. I wasn't abroad. I had phone service.
Yep.
So that was one of the things I learned.
You never think of those things, right? But they happen. That's why we have all the D's, because it seems like everything that happens with a D is what really throws a monkey wrench in. So yeah, it makes a difference. And as I said, having the caregivers in to care all of them in, even to have, as I said, Taco Tuesday, and have everybody in to talk to each other so they know each other, so that they know that they can call Patty, or they can call Jan, or they can call Connie if they can't get there, because you're number one person and they're going to feel so guilty. Well, this also relieves the guilt from your family. If your mother or your father or your sisters and brothers or your kids want to take care of your pets, that's all well and good and wonderful. But in the event they don't, you have backup. And a friend of mine, Yvonne DeVita, I'll never forget, she and I were at a conference. I was giving a big program on this, women who work in the pet industry. It was Whippin'. I gave this program, and she walked up to me afterward and she said, well, I don't have to make one of these because my daughter's going to take my dogs. And I said, okay, and cats and whatever. I said, okay. I said, I just like to put it out there because it's always good to have something in writing so you know what's going to happen. And it was at the beginning. I broke my ankle in 2013. I think I gave this talk in 2014. And as I said, it's evolved over the years. And she called me about a week later and she says, I'm making the plan with you. And I said, well, tell me what changed your mind. She said, well, what happens if she can't take the dogs? What happens if, one of the dogs doesn't get along with one of my dogs, or one of her kids is allergic to my cat or something? She said, I don't have anybody to help her. So what she did was she made a plan that said, well, all my dogs and cats go to my daughter, but in the event my daughter can't care for them, then I want her to know that Connie has said she'll take care of them, and Susan has said she'll take care of them, and Patty has said she'll take care of them. And then Jan is the last backup, and she really only wants the cats, but that's okay. And so she said it just made sense to me because I don't want her to feel guilty if she can't take the pets. And I said, I'm putting that in my program because you really don't want to make anyone feel guilty if they're not home, but enable them and empower them to call those other people who are going to take care of your pet in the event that something happens. Susan or Kieran, any last thoughts?
Susan, do you want to go ahead first?
Sorry, I don't really have any last thoughts.
All right, honey.
But I
Kieran?
got to get to work. I guess that's my last thought.
Yeah.
You do have to get to work, but we'll get you there. Kieran?
Okay.
Right. I'm going to finish on a lighter note, but first, if Jan and Patty want to get in touch, I'll write something for the newsletter and whatever.
Perfect.
Yeah, because this book is the best book for anyone who either is thinking about getting a pet, has gotten a pet and went, oh shit, or you can use it for your organizations. I've given it to all my breeders in the Irish Setter Club of America so that they can give it to their owners so they can ask the questions they need to ask before they get the pet.
I suppose just an update on the book. We are approaching the halfway stage of the acceleration program with a British university, and it's an EU funded program, a European Union funded program. So I will have something about that in the weeks ahead, but we're reaching the halfway stage, which is it's tough going, I must say, but it's very interesting work. Where was I going with all of? Yes, that's down the line. Okay, Debbie, you were mentioning out of pocket earlier, so with the war in the Ukraine and the coronavirus and everything, you can see the way inflation is hitting everybody quite hard now. So they've discovered that when people go to the gas stations and they're filling up and looking at the price, that faint feeling is caused by the car owner's virus.
Oh, very funny. Kieran always ends us on a happy note, I have to say.
As a groaner.
Instead of the coronavirus, you're very funny. I love you. You're the best.
Kieran, how do I get in touch with you?
Yeah,
drop your email to Debbie and she'll bounce it on to me.
Yeah, Rose will send out. Right, Rose? Because Patty, if you pop your contact information in the chat, we'll save the chat, and Rose will send Kieran's email to you and your email to Kieran, and then you guys can connect because it'll be really helpful. And if that's it, guys, I am so grateful you're here. Please feel free to come. We're here every Wednesday at 6:30 because you know what? It's the only way we really get the ideas we need to create the MAAP plan, to move forward, and to keep all of us, well, at the beginning, sane during COVID, but quite frankly, now sane given all the things that are going on in the world between the weather and the war. I might have to start the W list, Connie, God forbid. But we really need to stick together as pet owners to make these plans, to find the people who are going to help us care for our pets, because it always makes me crazy when people say, how could they leave their pets behind? How could they drop their pets off at a shelter? How could they do this? We're not walking in their shoes. Let's not blame and shame. Let's make sure we make a plan so that our pets have a soft landing. And that's all this is about. It's not about, if you don't make a plan. No, you'll make a plan. But remember, the homework tonight is to put that little note on your door saying, do not remove my pets from the house. Information on the person to call is on the fridge or whatever. And make sure you have that, because that one telephone number, even if it's just one, that one telephone number will relieve your pets from being removed and have that next step handed to the police or the EMTs if, God forbid, something happens to you. So until next week, this is Deborah Hamilton, ADR, North Carolina, and the Why Do Pets Matter podcast. If you want to listen to a great podcast, I have one. It's whydopetsmatter.com. And until next week, kiss your pets for me. Take care.